I was rummaging in my pack for cups, for sugar, for can openers, because obviously my hunting buddy hadn't included him in his pack. And I found a spatula. And I pulled out this and not now this was not a plastic spatula. This was a heavy duty stainless steel weighing 3 pound spatula that was in my pack.
Welcome to Hunting Stories, brought to you by Late to the Game Outdoors. Everyone loves a good story, and hunters have some of the best. Our whole mission is to collect and share great stories from hunters just like you, to entertain and keep you motivated all year long. So, pull up a seat around the campfire, because here we go. Well, guys, today my guests are repeat visitors to the show. Just a few episodes ago, actually, Season 2, Episode 12, I had Bob Baldwin and Jay Ledbetter on, authors of the book Proper Care and Feeding of a Hunting Buddy. And I had so much fun talking to Bob and Jay. They're just the kind of guys I would love to sit around a campfire and just let them tell stories and make me laugh until my face hurt. And I realized after we had talked for the last episode, I never got the actual story that sparked the title of the book and kind of set them off on this adventure of sharing their stories with the world. And so I had to get them back on to share that story, and it did not disappoint. It was so relatable to me. It's a backcountry Colorado elk hunt, which is just one of my favorite hunts in the world. So without further ado, here's Bob and Jay and their just incredibly disastrous Colorado elk hunt. Guys, I want to tell you real quick about one of the most game-changing memberships in my entire hunting arsenal, Go Hunt. I've had an insider membership for a few years now, and it's absolutely changed how I find hunts, where I buy gear, and in the last year, it's changed how I e-scout and use maps in the field. Honestly, I think an insider membership is a necessity for anyone who plans to hunt multiple states across the West. But Go Hunt also just released their Explorer membership, which gives you access to the maps for all 50 states, plus their incredible gear shop, and all the benefits that it offers for a fraction of the cost of the full insider membership. So, whether you want to go all in with the draw odds, the gear, and the maps as an insider, or you just want to get incredible desktop and mobile maps while building points towards top-of-the-line gear, Go Hunt has a membership that'll fit your hunting life. And if you use the code LATE at checkout, you'll get money towards the gear shop right out of the gate. For insiders, you'll get $50 to the gear shop, and Explorer members will get $20. So head over to Go Hunt and use the code LATE to snag your free gear and take your planning and mapping game to whole new levels today. Jay, Bob, thanks so much for hopping on again. How are you guys doing today?
We're great. Thank you, Eric, for inviting us back.
Oh, I wouldn't have it any other way.
It's good to be back, and it's good to be back even knowing that people might have actually listened to the story the first time we were on and are still willing to listen to it a second time.
Yeah, for those that are still listening, they're fans. They're in the middle of it. I realized after we had talked and chatted that you guys, I made you tell me, I think like 3 different stories that we packed into the last one. But I never got to the story of the story behind the title of your book, The Proper Care and Feeding of a Hunting Buddy. And so that's an error on my part. So I had to rectify that and have you guys back on so that you could share that story. So I'm going to just, with that tee up, I'll let you guys take it away.
So
well,
if
you have, let me just say, when you say error on my part, when we have errors, Bob and I have errors, that's where our stories come from.
and often incur medical expenses, by the way.
Oh, yeah. The price of the equipment we carry is almost matched by the price of the medical care that's required after one of our hunting trips.
So shortly after we met and got together, Jay, as I said in our last event, Jay made the mistake of inviting me on an elk hunt. And one of our early elk hunts, we'd been hunting along the Continental Divide in Colorado, and we'd been trying to chase elk with our archery equipment for days, right? And we were just never able to get the elk would come down in the evening and they'd go back up at night, and we'd we're camped down in the valley and couldn't get to the elk before they moved up into the rocky, 11, 12,000 feet range where neither of us could actually breathe. Right. So Jay come up with an idea. He said, "Hey, Bob, why don't we set up a spike camp at about 10,000, 11,000 feet, and we'll be above the elk?"
Makes perfect sense.
I looked at him dubiously, but said, "Okay, let's try that." Right. So one lesson I learned as we're getting ready to go up the mountain, I made the mistake of giving Jay unsupervised access to my backpack. And just is just a word of caution to your listeners, right? Never give your hunting buddy unsupervised access to your backpack, because you're going to end up carrying the bulk of the load.
Yeah, and I see that's how Bob is. He always has the biggest and best equipment. There was only one backpack that would carry the tent. There was only one backpack that would carry the most of the food. Mine was small. Mine is inadequate. And Bob now blames me because he had the best equipment. That's how it is with this guy.
Well, he didn't tell me about the tent stakes that he had. He had
Those
like
good tent stakes, Bob.
2 dozen tent stakes that I swear weighed 14 pounds each, right? And they somehow
they
made
aren't
it in
that
my.
much. Bob exaggerates a bit. Now, these are bridge nails with a washer welded to the top of them, because the stuff that comes with a normal tent, that bent wire stuff, is inadequate even in soft soils. But in rocky stuff, you need to have something with some meat in it. And we take a big rock and then just beat it into the ground, and that tent won't blow away. And Bob appreciates that. He just really does.
Indeed. So the trip up was intriguing, shall we say. We walked up through an aspen meadow, and covered in leaves that were wet and slippery, right? And literally it was like walking on cat snot. I mean, it was really slick, right? And because I was carrying most of the weight, you understand, it was more challenging for me to make it. And the other thing is, Jay led. So as we got higher and higher in elevation, he kept sucking up all the oxygen, right? And there wasn't any oxygen left for me, right? So it was a challenge, right?
Bob's always blaming me for sucking up all the air before he can get there. I got that. But one of the things I learned was that Bob has a tendency to rest a lot when he's going up through these aspen groves. And if I am alerted to the fact that he's about to take a rest break by I hear swoosh, oof, plop, and I turn around and his feet are not under him any longer. He's sitting there with his backpack on his back, and his eyes are rolled back ever so slightly. And I keep saying, "Bob, we'll rest later."
Well, so during one of those rest breaks, right, on the way up, we happened to take our packs off, right? And I'm just sitting there, and I went to move Jay's pack so I could have a better spot to sit. And when I lifted it up, I almost hit myself in the head with the pack. It was so light, right?
No, let me. I got to stop this, Bob. Look, here's another. Bob's got some helpful hints, and I got one here too. And it goes like this.
All right, I think most hunters can relate to this, that I'm an absolute information junkie, and I've lost more hours than I care to admit diving down a research rabbit hole. And because of that, I love a good online course that's going to take me on a deep dive into whatever topic has captured my attention. Usually it has to do with hunting. So when I learned about Outdoor Class, I knew it was going to be something I was way into. I just didn't realize it was going to be as next level awesome as it is. Outdoor Class is the e-learning platform for the outdoorsman. It has a top-notch lineup of the most reputable voices in the industry, sharing their vast knowledge on all things hunting on one amazing platform. Ever want to learn how to elk call? Outdoor Class has you covered. Freezer full of deer meat? Outdoor class will show you how to turn that into a meal to remember. When I first signed up, I started diving into Remy Warren's course on finding mule deer. Absolutely next level. And they have the web-based course and a mobile app to boot, so you can up your hunting game no matter where you're at. The platform is already packed with tons of amazing content, and I've been talking to the guys behind this, and there is so much more in the works from big names in the industry that I'm super pumped about. So head over and check out Outdoor Class today, and if you use the code LATE at checkout, you'll save 20% on your registration.
No matter how heavy or light your pack may be in comparison to your hunting buddies, no matter, doesn't matter. Do not place your pack down within arm's reach of your hunting buddy, because he's going to do one of these things where he grabs his in one hand and yours in the other and does it's kind of a comparison thing. And he's always, or something about it. Human nature always makes the other guy's pack lighter than your own. I've discovered that rule right there.
And Jay, even being the lawyer that he is, even had a name for that. He called it.
We all know about it.
The Crockett axiom.
Yeah, Crockett's axiom.
Right.
Yes, we all know about that.
Yes.
Right. So we finally reached and I once again I made the mistake. Jay was up ahead of me, and I said, Jay, start looking for a suitable camping spot. And so we got up there, and Jay said, this is the spot. I said, look for a level spot to camp. And
no, he didn't. He said, look for a flat spot. I found a flat. Now, when you've been climbing a 45-degree slope, and Bob was wrong about the altitude, the valley was 10,000 feet. We were going to stop at 12. But the bottom line is that when you've gone up a 45-degree slope, anything less than 45 degrees, that's
it starts to look pretty level, yeah.
And I was there. I found a good spot.
Yeah, it was flat, not level. Right.
Okay.
The difference between flat and level is flat is a surface that can be on any plane, whereas level is a perpendicular to the force of gravity. Right. So I think instead of 45 degrees, we were at about a 25 or 30 degree.
Okay. Yeah. What you have to admit, Bob, it was flat.
So we start setting up the tent, and we start setting up the tent, and we got it laid out, and I find these 40 pounds of steaks that Jay has got in my pack, by the way.
It's rolled up in the tent. That's where I keep them, Bob.
Yeah, right. So Jay gets inside the tent, and he's getting things, and I'm outside the tent trying to stake it down. And I said, Jay, so where's the hammer so I can drive these stakes into the ground? And he says, hammer? Well, what hammer? He says, find a rock. I find a rock, and I'm okay.
The Rocky Mountains, Bob. Rocky Mountains.
Yes. Okay, so I find a rock, right, and I start hammering these 10-pound stakes into the ground. Right. In the meantime, Jay is on the inside, and he's beginning to arrange things inside the tent and things like that. And I'm working my way around, and I'm taking this rock, and I mean, it's a big rock, and I'm banging it down on these tent stakes to get them driven. Right. Well, I got to one corner, and I've got the stake in one hand, and I've got the rock in the other hand, and I'm really, really going at it, and all of a sudden, here's the stake, and all of a sudden I'm going banging like this, and all of a sudden the stake is moved because somebody, not saying who, but somebody has shifted where the tent is. And the rock comes down on my hand, and I'm now doing a crotch hop around the tent and calling out, boy, words that are, I can't normally speak.
He said stuff like great fried peaches. He said stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he made some really good circuits around the tent.
I'm sure
he was moving at a good pace, and I found entertainment value there. But
I suggested that somebody had moved the tent while I was trying to drive
silly,
these.
Bob. I mean, I was the only one in the tent. Duh. I didn't move it.
So in spite of the bleeding and the swelling on my hand, we finally got the tent set up, and we started getting ready to eat. And we had developed a kind of a routine of an Earl Grey tea in the evening in our camps, right? So first thing we do is to get the water boiling, right, for our tea, right? And so I got the camp stove on, and I got the water, and it's boiling. And I said to Jay, I says, okay, the water's ready. Hand me the cups. And Jay says, he says, cups? What cups? And I said, well, they're not in my pack, so they must have been in your pack, because I mean, you had all the. And he said, no, I think they're on the tailgate of the truck down at.
See, the thing was, I didn't want Bob to be overloaded.
That was thoughtful.
So I did, he had the backpack that was big enough to carry the cups too. And because I care for Bob and I'm a good hunting buddy, I said, I'll just leave these out. Things that are heavy that probably shouldn't be in his pack, I left out. And he's never quite thanked me for that either.
Yeah. So, all right. So now I only had one pan, because, by the way, my cooking utensils were in my pack, and Jay just didn't seem to bring any in his pack, right? So I had to dump the water out because we didn't have cups for it. And I said, well, I maybe what we can do is we have some cans of stew, and we'll put the stew in the pot, and we can use the cans as our cups, right? So I says, Jay, I says, hand me the can opener, and I'll dump the stew in the pot. And he said, can opener, can opener. So
again, I was trying to be nice to Bob because I didn't want him to be overloaded.
So I had to take my hunting knife out and start sawing on the cans in order to get them open. And if you've ever tried to open up a can with a hunting knife, you know that it leaves jagged edges, and it's a little bit challenging. But we finally got the can opened, and we
Bob can do anything. He's that good.
And when we got both cans, we put them in the pot, and we started cooking it, and we didn't have our Earl Grey tea, but nevertheless we had stew, right? So we're eating the stew, and we got done with the stew, and Jay says, hey, Bob, we can use those cans for cups for our Earl Grey tea. And I looked at him a little dubiously, and I said, okay, I'm willing if you are. So we cleaned up the pot we had and put water in it and boiled it down and put our Earl Grey tea bags in those cans. After, by the way, we tried to wipe them out as best we could with the
and you don't
napkins that we didn't have
those jagged edges, but Bob still got it done.
Yeah. So we got those filled up, and we got the tea in there, and the tea had come to the right. And I said, Jay, I said, pass me the sugar, please. And he said, sugar. And I said, sugar? How are we going to drink Earl Grey tea without sugar? And he said, well,
Bob doesn't realize how heavy sugar is. At 11,000 feet, it's at least the weight of tent stakes.
It is. Every ounce counts up there.
Yeah.
Especially, Bob was already taking lots of rest breaks.
So then Jay says, hey, well, we've got Hershey's chocolate. So we can use Hershey's chocolate to sweeten our tea. So he breaks out the Turkey's chocolate. By the way, the Hershey's chocolate with almonds, right?
No, so he little bitty tiny flakes of almonds in it, not the big ones.
Yeah. So he breaks them up and dumps them into our tea. And by the way, the tea has now cooled to about 33 degrees. So it's no longer hot, right? I mean, because trying to find the sugar. So here we sitting there, and you have to be very delicately careful to when you're using these cans with the serrated edges all around them from the opening as you're trying to sip the tea, right?
Yeah.
And so between the chocolate that wasn't melting in the 30-degree temperature of the water and the leftover stew and the bits of almonds, we were trying to use our teeth to strain the liquid to get into us, right?
Bob, he always is trying something new, because a challenge for him is only an opportunity to try something new. And this episode gave him chances to try things new that he has never tried before, and I suspect will never do again. But that's just my thoughts.
And there was one other thing that occurred. I was rummaging in my pack for cups, for sugar, for can openers, because obviously my hunting buddy hadn't included him in his pack. And I found a spatula. And I pulled out this and now this was not a plastic spatula. This was a heavy duty stainless steel weighing 3-pound spatula that was in my pack, right? And I looked
You
over
had
at
a
Jay.
big pack, Bob. You have the best big pack of all of us. He's got
And
the best stuff.
I waved the spatula at him and I said, Jay, I said, did we bring eggs up on this trip that we might use a spatula? And Jay said,
Well, no.
Jay said,
they're
no. Okay.
they're in the truck. Eggs are heavy, Bob.
Yeah. And I said, Jay, did we bring any pancake mix
Well,
in order to make use of the spatula? And Jay said,
well, no, because Bob, look, as spacious as Bob's pack was, I finally ran out of room.
And so I said, what in the world am I going to do with this spatula? So Jay found a way to make use of it, because, by the way, when we had the stew and there weren't any crackers to put in the stew, Jay reached over, took the spatula from my hand, dug it into our trail mix, and threw a few cashews into the stew.
Okay.
See, it was useful after all. And I appreciate you carrying it up there, Bob. It was great.
Yeah.
It's better to be prepared. Be prepared.
Be prepared.
Oh my goodness.
So that's part of the story. We won't finish the story here because the end of the story is, oh my gosh, you would just not believe, except that I would never exaggerate, right? You would hardly believe that any of this was true. But we'll save the rest of the story for people that want to hear the end.
That is awesome. Yes, buy the book if you want to hear how that turns out, and how they got all of that extra stuff and weight back down the mountain at some point.
Oh, the getting down was the best part. That's where the story gets to be real fun.
Oh, I love that cliffhanger ending. That is perfect, and I think it's so highly relatable hearing you two guys on a mountain in a positive, like friendly way, arguing about stuff. Because I think that's how hunting buddies are, right? You're in the woods, you're in trying situations, and stuff always seems to happen.
And the truth is, that's really the fun part about hunting, right? And that's why we've tried to bring this out, because hunting is really about camaraderie. It's about being with friends and enjoying yourself in the outdoors. And look, every single hunter out there has had things happen like this.
Oh yes,
you trip over a rock, or your tree stand slips, or any number of any things that occur. Any hunter can think of those things, and if they don't scare you half to death, when looking back on them, they become humorous, right? And so that's kind of what we've tried to do, is take some of those humorous events, a kernel of truth in each of them, right? And Jay has a tendency to exaggerate them a little bit, but you can tell from my story, I don't exaggerate at all, right? I mean,
No,
I just tell it straight up.
just
right?
very literal, exactly as it
Eric,
happened.
I'm pretty convinced that the reason Bob keeps going hunting with me is because every time we go, there's comes at least one or two more stories out of it, and sadly, most of them are true.
The stories are it's part of why we do it. It's what makes hunting amazing, and the fact that it's amazing makes for good stories. Oh man, gentlemen, that is just I feel like I could just sit here and laugh with you all day, but we've got to allow you to point people to where you'd like them to meet you or meet up with you digitally. So the book, I'll put a link in the show notes, The Proper Care and Feeding of a Hunting Buddy. Go buy that to hear the rest of the story. But where else can guys get a hold of you?
Well, we certainly have email addresses. You can reach me at bobandj.com. Jay has an email address as well, jay@bobandj.com, but he doesn't know how to read. So, if you want to reach out to either of us, send it to me, right? You can also reach us at bobandj.com. We have a website, bobandj.com, and you can reach us. We have a Facebook page, facebook.com/bobandj, and that will get you to our Facebook page as well. And by the way, you can buy the books, as you indicated. You can buy the books at Amazon.com or Barnes and Noble. You're probably not going to find the book in Barnes and Noble store, but you can certainly order.
They're always sold out.
They just can't keep them on the shelves.
That's it. Yeah.
Oh, guys, that's terrific. I'll put links to all that in the show notes. And to the people listening, go buy the book. Sync up with Bob and Jay. They are just. I've had the pleasure of talking to them a couple times now, and just terrific gentlemen. It's always a riot. So guys, thank you again so much for making some more time and coming back on the show.
Our pleasure.
Thanks, Eric. We appreciate your time. Appreciate the opportunity.
Are you a new hunter, or even a guy with some miles under his boots who's still just trying to figure it out? I get it. I've been there. I'm an adult onset hunter who spent the last 15 years learning how to hunt. And so I wrote the book, How to Hunt, A Total Beginner's Guide to Hunting Big Game, as the resource I wish existed all those years ago when I first started. Whether you're planning to chase elk with your bow in the West or you're hunting whitetails back east, this book will take you from knowing absolutely nothing to your first harvest. It's packed with hunting stories and plenty of those times where I royally screwed up, so you can learn from my mistakes and feel better that you're not the only one. You'll leave with a sound strategy for hunting big game and have plenty of laughs along the way. Grab a copy today at latetothegameoutdoors.com/howtohuntbook. Thanks so much for tuning in to Hunting Stories. And if you want to stay up on what we're doing with the podcast or anything else going on with Late to the Game, go ahead and check us out at latetothegameoutdoors.com or give us a follow on Instagram at latetothegameoutdoors. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.